Okay, we go for another MyMaths walkthrough. This is task 75, significant figures, just rounding the numbers off. So significant figures, you've got to find out where the number is and then round at that place, which is the whole point of significant figures. So the one significant figure, you find the first number in the list, so it's a 5. This is the most significant part of this number. This is the 5,000 part, that's a 380 and 4, so this is the most important bit, the biggest bit, the most important bit. So we go to the first number, and then we round to that number. So 50, the 5, you always look at the next one. The next one's a 3. If it was 5 or more, that would change, but because it's less than 5, that'll stay the same, so it becomes a 5. And then you just change these to zeros, 1, 2, 3. And that's basically it. So the next one, to two significant figures, so you count in 1, 2 there. You look at these two, you say, well, 38, that rounds to 40, so that'll be a 4. So you get a 5, then a 4, and then everything else turns to zeros. Okay. For the last one, so three significant figures, 1, 2, 3. You got the 8 and the 4. 4's less than 5, so that 8 stays the same. So you write these three, 5, 3, 8, and then you put a 0 in at the end. Another way to look at that one is the first significant figures in the 1,000 column, so you round this nearest 1,000. Second significant figures in the hundreds column, so you round this to the nearest 100, so that big number to the nearest 100 is 5,400. And third significant figures, 1, 2, 3 is 38, which is in the tens column, so 5,384 to the nearest 10 is 5,380. Another way of looking at it. But then you've got to know like all the number systems, and when you get crazy numbers like these ones, it's easy just to look at the next one. So let's do the next one. So one significant figure, so there's the first number. The next one's a 5, so that's going to change to an 8. There's nothing before it. And then everything else is just going to change to zeros. So 1, 1, 2, 3. Two significant figures, 1, 2. So the 8 comes after the 5, so that's going to change to a 6. That's right, so 7, 6. And then these are 3, it'll be zeros. 1, 2, 3. Three significant figures, 1, 2, 3. So the next one's a 3, so that'll leave the 8 alone, so 7, 5, 8, and then these two just turn to zeros, so 7, 5, 8, and then two zeros, 800. Next one, I don't like the colour of that pen, I'm just going to change back to purple, although that would be nice to have a different colour. So one significant figure, this one's a bit weirder, so you've got the 9, and then the next one's a 9, so that'll change to a 10, and then all these will change to zeros, so a 10 for that one. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zeros. So that's a million. Next one's two significant figures, so 1, 2, and the next one's a 1, so that leaves that alone. So this is 99, and then all these are going to be zeros. And then 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the last one is three significant figures, so 1, 2, 3. Next one's an 8, so that's going to change to a 2. 5 or more changes it, so that's going to change to 2. So 9, 9, 2, and then these are going to be zeros. 9, 9, 2, 1, 2, 3. One significant figure, so there, the 4, the next one's an 8, so that'll just change up to a 5. And everything else becomes zeros, so 6 zeros, so 5 million. Two significant figures, 1, 2. The next one's a 2, so it leaves the 8 alone, so 48 to start with. And then these are all changing to zeros, so 5 of them, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. And then three significant figures, 1, 2, 3 numbers in, and then you've got the next one's a 2, so it leaves that 2 alone, so 4, 8, 2, and then these 4 will be zeros, so 4, 8, 2, and then 4 zeros. Next one you've got is an 8, so the next number is a 9, that's more than 5, so that'll change to a 9, then all these change to zeros, 9, 1, 2, 3, 4. Two significant figures, 1, 2, the next one's a 2, so that'll just stay the same, so 89 and 3 zeros. And then three significant figures, 1, 2, 3, and these are 2s, so you can, that 2 doesn't change that one, so 8, 9, 2, and then these 2 turn to zeros. 8, 9, 2, and then 2 zeros. And that's that one. So that's just doing the, not really going into the depth of changing to the nearest 100,000, the nearest million, all that sort of thing. Just looking at where the number is, look at the next one, does it change it? If it's more than 5, it changes it. Write everything that comes up to there, and then change everything else to zeros for whole numbers. When you go into decimals, slightly different. So one significant figure for these ones. So the first significant figure, when you look at the decimals, is the first non-zero digit. So this 5 is the first significant figure. So you don't count these zeros, you count that 5. So there's the first one. You look at the next one, just like we did above, So it doesn't change it because it's got to be 5 or more to change. So I've got 0.05, 0.05, and then these two turn into zeros. Okay. Now the thing here is, when you've got decimal points, you don't have to write zeros at the end. So these zeros I can forget about actually. So it's actually equal to 0.05, 0.05. Okay. Next one significant figure. So we go, there's the first one, which is a non-zero. Next one's a 9, so that does change it. Remember, 5 or more changes it, so that will change to a 2. So everything comes before 0.002, 0.002, and then these two just turn into zeros now. But remember, you don't have to write the zeros at the end. 0.002, and then that's the end of that question. Now, you shouldn't write the zeros at the end. In fact, you should just leave your answer like this one. Now, it's sort of a bit dodgy that, because you do have to change these to zeros when it's a whole number, but at the end of a decimals you don't even have to write them anymore. Okay, so you can just forget about them after the decimal. So if I do this one in one step, so find the first non-zero, that's that one. Next one's a 3, so that's a little less than 5, so that won't change. So all that, so 0.123, and then the 8, and then these two will turn to zeros, but at the end of the decimal I don't have to write them. Okay, so that's all that one turns out to be. Next question. Two significant figures. I've got two significant figures. So the second number, that's not, so there's the first one, 1, 2. Now this is a 2, so it's not going to affect it. Remember, it has to be 5 or more. So you write everything come up to there, 0.044, and then that will change to a 0, but at the end of a decimal, don't bother writing it. Two significant figures. So 1, now this 0 does count because you've already hit a non-zero. So as soon as you start hitting as non-zero, everything else counts from that point in, so it's that one. Now the 3 is less than 5, so it's not going to do anything. Okay, so it's going to be 0.0070, and then 3, 2 will turn to zeros. Now in this case, I personally would leave that 0 in. Okay, because I want two significant figures, and I'm showing that I know that it's actually 70, and the 0 is the second of the significant figures. Okay, so I personally would leave that in for two significant figures. Equals, next one, so two significant figures, 1, 2, so an 8 after the 9 does knock on, so it takes the 9 to a 10, the 10 takes the 59 into 60, so we're going to have 0.123, and then the 60, and then the 8 will change to a 0, which we'll forget. And then the same argument is, I'll leave the 0 in this case because it's a second significant figure. Okay, you do have to be careful around the 9s and on the knock-on effect. Okay, so the 8 after the second number is bigger than 5, so it will change the 9. The 9 becomes a 10, but the 10 then just knocks onto the 50, so 59 becomes 60 for that one. Well, it's not 59 really, but there we go. Right, three significant figures. So non-zeros, 1, 2, 3, that's a 6, which is more than 5, so it changes that to a 2, so 0.0592, 0.0592. 1, 2, 3, that's a 2, so it doesn't have any effect, so we'll just write these three, so 0.28 and 0. 1, 2, 3, a bit awkward this one, because the 8 does change the 9 to a 10, the 10 changes the 9 to a 10, the 10 changes the 8 to a 9, so that's going to be 900 there. So I've got 0.009, and again I would leave the zeros in for three significant figures. Okay, and then the last question, so three significant figures, so we count 1, 2, 3, and the next one's a 3, so it doesn't have any effect on this number, so it's going to be 6.33. And that's it for significant figures. Okay, good luck.